Before getting into the specifics of the fifth day of creation and the third sign of Jesus, I want to review the framework with which Valentin Tomberg is looking at these events. The context for these correlations is that, as Tomberg wrote, the supratemporal works of creation of the Father are shown to the Son by the Father and are fulfilled by the Son, the Word made flesh, in the form of signs and miracles. As Jesus said after healing the paralyzed man, "My Father is working still, and also I am working." Of this statement, Tomberg writes, "With these words, he clearly expresses the fact that the creative reality of the Father in the days of creation is the archetype of the healing reality of the Son in the miracles, and that the miracles of the Gospel of St. John have their origin and archetype in the days of creation described in Genesis. Next, we will consider the relationship of the third miracle to the fifth day of creation. The third miracle was the healing of the paralyzed man. The healing of a man waiting by a pool for the angel to remove the water so that he could be the first to enter the water and be healed. The fifth day of creation is the account of the waters bringing forth creatures in the horizontal direction and in the vertical direction. The heavens brought forth birds in the firmament. In other words, the fifth day of creation brought forth fish and birds and what Tomberg called ensouled movement in the world. Tomberg wrote, "The fifth day of creation in Genesis is the account of the waters bringing forth ensouled movement. In the horizontal, swarms of living creatures, and in the vertical direction, birds that fly above the earth across the firmament of the heavens. The result of the fifth day of creation is ensouled movement in the world. The result of the third miracle in the Gospel of St. John is the healing of the man who was paralyzed for 38 years. In other words, the restoration of ensouled faculty of movement to the paralyzed man, who lay there waiting for healing through the water brought into movement by an angel. However, the healing wasn't brought about by entering the water, but by the words of Jesus, who said to the man, 'Arise, take up your bed and walk.' These words embody the effect of the fifth day of creation, the creation of ensouled movement in the world. In other words, the same force that operated on the fifth day of creation, the one that brought the vertical and horizontal movement of the creatures, also restored ensouled movement to the paralyzed man." And here Tomberg clearly implies that the paralysis is not only physical, but also includes a condition of the soul. The faculty of movement is essentially cosmic, not only according to its effect, where every movement, even the slightest, exerts an effect ultimately upon the whole world, but also according to the causes stimulating it. For the human being stands within a stream of cosmic energies, his thoughts in the streams of the thought world, his feelings in the streams of the world's psychic forces, and his impulses of will are immersed in the streams of world will energy and are plugged into them. And just as someone, for example, who holds his breath and takes in no more air will suffocate, so will someone who cuts himself off from the streams of cosmic energies become paralyzed. It is the cutting oneself off that is a sin against God, against humanity, and against nature. For this reason, Jesus later said to the healed paralyzed man when he saw him in the temple, "See, you are well, sin no more, that nothing worse befall you." When Jesus told this man to go and sin no more, he was referring to the sin of having removed himself from these cosmic forces, so cutting himself off from God. So the third miracle is accomplishing what Tomberg calls a replugging in of the human being to the ensouled movement of the world, for someone who by sin had been cut off from it and was therefore paralyzed. Tomberg writes again, "Thus the fifth day is that of the coming into being of ensouled movement, which was originally in harmony, in accord with the whole. The third miracle of St. John's Gospel is the healing act of restoration of this harmony in the case of the paralyzed man, who through sin had fallen into disaccord with the harmony of ensouled movement in the world."